lower than that. A lot of people are very worried that Joe Biden is going to lose if he runs again, but I got bad news for you. Joe Biden says he wants to run, and it's not that easy to push somebody aside, and unless he becomes ill and has to step aside, I think he's going to be there. But let's bring in someone who knows more about this stuff. Dave Dulio, Director of the Center for Civic Engagement and Political Science Professor at Oakland University. Hey, Dave, how are you?
I'm well, guys. Good morning.
It seems to me like if this was easy, it would happen all the time. We've had all kinds of unpopular presidents that run and lose.
We have, and certainly it is not uncommon for there to be questions asked, right? But it is very uncommon. It is rare for there to be a real viable challenge to a sitting president. And I think that the fact that these rumors, that these discussions are taking place within the Democratic Party tell you a couple of things, right? One is that I don't think a president has faced, to use Tom's phrase, a cavalcade of crises like the ones that we've seen now and that we're seeing now. And I think that you factor in the president's age, you factor in that even Democrats are starting to notice that, when he gives a press conference, there are often gaffes or misstatements or stumbles. I think that it all adds up to Democrats taking a serious look at what they're going to do in 2024.
Yeah, well, you got to deal with gas prices, inflation, the stock market plummeting, food shortages, crimes up, record overdoses. I don't know. There's some things where someone could go in and say, "Hey, Joe, it's not going so great. We really want to keep power. Would you be willing to step aside?" But if he doesn't want to go, what do you do about it?
Well, all it takes is somebody to run against him, right? I mean, I think that is this is an open process. Democrats nationally, the party elites can try to talk people out of running against him, but that is ultimately up to that would-be candidate, right? Now, the biggest problem for Democrats who don't want to see Joe Biden run again or be the nominee again is finding someone credible and viable to launch that campaign. Is it going to be his sitting vice president? I doubt it. Is it going to be one of his sitting cabinet members, like a new resident in our state, Pete Buttigieg? I doubt it. Where is it going to be another, frankly, old white guy in Bernie Sanders? I doubt it, right? So you start to go down the list of possibles, and you sort of are left wondering, where do they turn?
Yeah, is anybody better than Biden, which is scary. There's a lot of comparisons of Joe Biden to Jimmy Carter. He was a horrible first-term president, nice guy, but didn't do so well back in the 70s. He was being challenged, Jimmy Carter was in 1980, by Ted Kennedy in the primary. Kennedy lost, but it was a blow to Carter's reputation that someone in his own party ran against him. So let's say Joe Biden doesn't step down and there's no one that the party can figure out is good enough to replace him. Could there be somebody coming up in the primary? Could the same thing happen to Joe Biden as to what happened to Jimmy Carter back in 1980?
No doubt about it, right? If Democrats can find that candidate and maybe, it's somebody who is not on the national scene. Maybe it's a governor, right? And heck, and let's talk about those governors, right? There's one here in Michigan that has pretty close ties to the White House. Would Gretchen Whitmer challenge Joe Biden? I doubt it, right? Just because it's a tough situation, right? And in addition, if it's a governor or somebody, a U.S. senator who's out there, can they win the general? That's the big question, which of course depends heavily on who the Republican nominee ends up being.
Yeah, and this is more than just a messaging problem. We've seen Biden's communications director, Kate Bedingfield. She's leaving the office. Jen Psaki has left and was replaced by Karine Jean-Pierre, not doing a really great job at her job in that role. They do have a messaging problem, true, but it seems that it's Biden's policies that are what are being attacked here by the Democratic Party, from foreign affairs to domestic affairs.
I think that's right, Tom. I think that they have a messaging problem, but they also have a performance problem.
Yeah.
And I think that Americans are really good at taking stock of what the government has done as a whole in the last, handful of years, in the last 2 years in this case. And Kevin, you went through a litany of things that are currently impacting us greatly. It wasn't that long ago that the president's slide in approval rating started with that botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. We've totally forgotten about that, right? But that just speaks to how many other things, many other issues, many other problems have popped up on our radar screen.
Yeah, well, when you're the most powerful person in the world and you can just have Air Force One fly you off to Camp David, it's hard to imagine wanting to give that up very easily. And I don't think Joe Biden will be convinced to give that up if his health is okay. And it makes me wonder. It's going to be very hard to get him to give that up. It might even be harder to get Trump to give that up. Can Trump be pushed aside?
Again, it's going to take somebody to mount a serious and viable campaign to oppose him if he gets in right now. And I think that there's been some recent polling. You guys have seen this, I'm sure, that demonstrates pretty clearly that Trump is leading the pack among the Republican possibilities out there, including Ron DeSantis. Now, if Trump is not part of the field when Republican voters are asked about it, DeSantis wins going away, right? But if you add Trump in there, Trump is still the pick by a slim majority of Republican primary voters. And I think the thing that keeps the Biden campaign, or the Biden team, I should say, and maybe even national Democrats going, and will keep him part of the conversation, is that in recent polling, at least some of it, we see Biden winning that head-to-head matchup with Trump. It's close, but Biden wins in some of those polls, right? So Biden might say, look, I can still beat Trump. He's going to be the nominee. Why would you get rid of me?
Yeah, even in this New York Times poll, which was so disfavorable to Joe Biden, it also did show that in that head-to-head matchup between Trump and Biden comes out ahead, but other polls show that head-to-head between DeSantis and Biden, DeSantis comes out ahead. So it's an interesting dynamic, primary versus general. It's a couple years out from now, but it's already picking up steam. We always appreciate your perspective on this. Dave Dulio, Director of the Center for Civic Engagement and Political Science Professor at Oakland University. Dave, thanks so much. Great to talk with you again.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good day. 800-859-0957 is the phone number. We'll take your calls coming up next. 800-859-WJR.